It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
All right, how we all doing? It's been a while since we had a playoff kick in the balls. We've had a lot of regular season kick in the balls, a lot of horrible, disgusting regular season losses, some at 2 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast, some in the middle of the afternoon, some at a normal time at night. We now experienced a playoff kick in the balls, and it's one of those playoff losses you could feel coming from the beginning. You could feel it from the beginning. You could feel it when Pete Alonso trips over his own goddamn bat when he grounds into the easiest double play in the world. You could feel it when they had a runner on second and nobody out and didn't score. You could feel it when Pete struck out meekly with a runner on second and didn't score. You could really feel it when they had 2 on and nobody out in the 6th inning and they could not score. You just knew 3 runs was never going to be enough. And it wasn't. And Phil Maton, and look, here's my issue with Phil Maton. Phil Maton was cooked. He was cooked. He had pitched 3 days in a row until yesterday when he finally didn't pitch. He has pitched a ton lately. So Mendy felt like he had to go to him in the 8th inning because you look down at who he had used. He had used Ryan Stanek. He had used Reed Garrett. Where else was he going? So he decides, I'm going to try it with Phil Maton. Once Phil Maton gives up a home run to Jackson Chourio and the lead is gone, obviously you got to deal with the 3-batter minimum. Can you have someone warmed up and ready to take his ass out? That's my biggest critique of Carlos Mendoza from this game. Let's go right to the jugular. We'll get to every aspect of this game. There's a lot of emails giving up on the team. We'll go through all of that. But let's go to the part that drives me nuts. The part that's still bothering me. I know this game only ended like 10 minutes ago. But the part that really pissed me off more than any other move you want to first guess or second guess. I even said this on the air earlier today. Phil Maton is cooked. He pitched 3 days in a row. They were put in a spot where Mendy felt like he had to go to him in the 8th inning. When he gives up the home run to Jackson Chourio, that's a warning sign. When he gives up the base hit to Blake Perkins, that's another warning sign. When he gets Contreras to hit the ball hard, luckily it was right at Lindor and they turned a double play, that's another warning sign. You could have gotten him out right then and there with 2 outs and nobody on. Why screw around with Willy Adames coming up? And you could also tell when Maton couldn't put Adames away, I think he threw multiple curveballs in a row to him, and Adames kept fouling the ball off. You could feel it. So how come Mendy didn't feel it? Adames pokes the base hit to left field. At that point, is it not obvious to get him out of the game? Again, he had pitched 3 days in a row. It's not magic. It's not like, oh, he sat for a day. He didn't pitch on Tuesday. Great. He's refreshed and set. That's not how it works. I don't have an issue with going to Phil Maton in the 8th inning. I actually don't have an issue with anything Mendy did until that point. I understood why you pulled Sean Manaea. It's not ideal when you still have a somewhat short bullpen, because you still do have a somewhat short bullpen. Jose Budo wasn't walking through that door today. Edwin Diaz could pitch, but not aggressively. You weren't going to ask for a 6-out save, because if you were, he would have been in this game in the 8th inning. But I understand the way Manaea was throwing, with where his pitch count was, the way he struggles 3rd time around the order, with the hard contact that we saw. I get why he took Sean Manaea out of the game. Reed Garrett did a great job, helped out by a wonderful throw by Francisco Alvarez. Credit to Francisco. I wanted to start Luis Torrens in this series. That would have turned out to be the wrong decision. Alvarez has looked good behind the plate. He's gotten a couple of hits, including an RBI single in this game, and he made an outstanding throw to nail Garrett Mitchell, who is the pinch runner. Yeah, more on Garrett Mitchell later. But Reed Garrett for an inning, fine. Ryan Stanek for an inning, playoff Stanek, circle of trust Stanek, absolutely fine. Going to Phil Maton with a 1-run lead in the 8th inning, here's the only thing I would have considered doing differently. And there are moves I hate, like keeping Maton in this game, and then there are moves where I'm like, I could have considered doing this. I would have considered using Diaz in the 8th inning, not necessarily to get 6 outs, But to get the top of the order out, to get Churio out, who had a home run earlier in this game, to get William Contreras out, to get the most important outs of this game in the 8th inning, and then we see where we are. We see how many pitches he threw. We see how shaky he was. We see how dominant we was. We see if the Mets could accidentally score a couple of runs. That's the only other thing I would have considered. Because when you look at the rest of the bullpen, you're not going to Huascar Brazoban with a 1-run lead in the 8th inning, top of the order. He's not using Budo again. Forget Max Kranick. Adam Ottavino, are we really seeing him in that spot? So you had 2 options. I guess you had 3 options. You could have kept Stanek in the game. I don't think that would have been a good idea, as sharp as he looked. You could have gone to Maton, which is what he did. Or you could have gone to Diaz, not for 6 outs necessarily, but for the idea of, hey, let me get these 3 outs in the 8th inning. Let me get the top of the order out. Mendy didn't do any of that. But you cannot keep Phil Maton in this game. It's bad enough when Jackson Churio goes opposite field and ties the game up. That's bad enough. And yeah, most of us thought, game's over now, but it's still a tie game. The game isn't over now. Keep the pressure on this Brewer team. Keeping Phil Maton in to face his 5th batter when there was hard contact against him, he's pitched an awful lot over the last few days, was the closest thing we've seen to malpractice by this manager. He screwed up. Now, he didn't screw everything up. He's not the only reason they lost this game, because you could tell from jump 3 runs was never going to be enough. And the Mets needed to take advantage of the opportunities they had in this game. They had the Brewers down. They had them beat. And how many scoring opportunities did they mess up on? Go right back to the beginning of this game. Lindor starts this game off with a tremendous at-bat working a walk. You get a Mark Vientos infield hit that I have to admit, Vientos has trained me to know how freaking slow he is, that when he hit that top of the third base, I thought he was going to be thrown out. So it's like Santa Claus came to town that Vientos beat it out. And then Brandon Nimmo, to his credit, finds the hole in right field for the RBI single, giving this team a very early 1-0 lead against Frankie Montas and putting the pressure on Milwaukee. And then we get to our guy who played great defensively. I'll get the compliment out of the way. Pete saved numerous errors in this game, both on Francisco Lindor. 1 in the 2nd inning, 1 in the 5th inning. So golf clap for Pete Alonso's defense. Okay, got that out of the way. Pete Alonso with 1st and 3rd, 1 out, 1-0. Pete, a 3-run home run. Yes, that would be delectable. Can you hit the ball to left field? Can you just put it in the outfield, score a run, make this 2-0? That's it. That's all I'm asking. I ain't asking that much. Or maybe one of your trademark little bloopers in a right field. Could use that. And instead, he hits a ground ball right at the shortstop. I don't think it mattered that he tripped like a klutz on the bat, because I think it's a double play no matter what. Pete is not exactly fleet of foot, but it made it look worse. It added to it. Pete falling down and not being able to, make the play relatively close, it just made it worse. And you want to know why? Because most Met fans have turned on Pete. They're done with Pete. They think he's a big, dopey schmuck who can't get a big hit. That's where we are right now in the discourse on Pete Alonso. And so when Pete Alonso trips on home plate or trips on the bat, and all you see on the easy 6-4-3 double play is how Pete's a mile and a half away, the reaction is, now he's not even hustling. The klutz doesn't even care. Trust me, he cares. The problem is he may care too much because he's pressing. And they need him. They may not have needed him in game 1 to get the big hit. He did contribute, though, by drawing 3 walks, including the walk before Winker's triple. But at some point, or they're going to get eliminated, Pete Alonso's going to need to produce runs. He's going to need to drive runs in. 1st and 3rd, 1 out in the 1st inning was a golden opportunity. In the 5th inning, with a 3-1 lead, and a runner on 2nd and 2 outs after a very weird little rally began with a hit batsman and a balk by Tyler McGill's brother, Trevor McGill. Another big opportunity for Pete Alonso, and he's flailing at sliders off the plate. Pete, we need you. We need you. This team will get eliminated eventually. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not today, maybe it'll be next week if you don't start producing runs. But he wasn't the only one. That moment was big. He wasn't the only one. After Minaya gave up the home run to Churio in the bottom of the first inning, ahead of the count 0-2, which just drives me freaking nuts. The Mets, to their credit, this is where I give our team a little bit of credit, took advantage of some bad Milwaukee defense when Frankie Montas dropped the ball at first base. Tyrone Taylor got a blue pit. Francisco Alvarez got an RBI single. Lindor came up with first and third, drove a run in on a sac fly. And not that I want to kill Mark Vientos because he's been productive, but he came up in the second inning with a chance to really break the Brewers' backs up 3-1. And who knew from that moment on? Who knew? First and third, 2 out. Vientos flies out. Okay, fine. It's 3-1. What a response. They gave Sean Manaea back the lead. This is fantastic. Who knew the Mets would not be able to get another big hit from that moment on? I don't want to kill Vientos for that at-bat. He's been very productive in this series, but that was the beginning of the end for this offense. Talk about the fourth inning. Leadoff hit by Starling Marte. He steals second base, even though he's initially called out. Alan Porter, the crew chief, effed up. No big deal. Mets review it. Marte's on second, nobody out. Tough to ever kill Tyrone Taylor, but can you give a productive out and hit the ball to second base and move Starling Marte? Alvarez strikes out. Lindor pops up. Lindor has been very quiet in this series. Again, another guy that's tough to kill because we're not here. If he doesn't hit that, I mean, maybe we are here. Who knows? But the 2-run home run 2 days ago, the biggest home run in the history of the Mets regular season outside of Piazza, he's been very, like a church mouse, very, very quiet producing runs. But I'll tell you the inning that really bothers me the most was the 6th inning. They got a leadoff walk from J.D. Martinez. Great at-bat by J.D. Even when he's not hitting sometimes, he could at least give you that quality at-bat. Starling Marte, who was on base 4 times in this game, slaps a base hit to right field, and you have 2 on and nobody out, and you're up by 1 run. Tyrone Taylor, I give you a little factoid about Tyrone Taylor. Tyrone Taylor has 1 sacrifice bunt in his major league career, just 1. That 1 came this season. That 1 this season helped the Mets win a game. It's a very long time ago. I don't know why I remember it, but if you go all the way back to April, Tyrone Taylor laid down a bunt in a game against Kansas City. It was 0-0 at the time, I think so. Laid down a bunt. It was successful, and the Mets produced 2 runs against the Royals in the bottom of the 8th inning. They ended up winning the game 2-1. That's it. That's the only time Tyrone Taylor, I'm sure he's attempted other bunts, but that was the only time in his major league career he laid down a bunt sacrifice. But he's done it before. You have a 3-2 lead with first and second, nobody out. You've got Alvarez, Lindor, and Iglesias coming up. Get a bunt down. Get a bunt down. Changes the entire inning if Tyrone Taylor can get a bunt down. What does he do? Swings at the first pitch and pops up to right field. That little moment, to me, was such a big freaking moment because we all knew 3 wasn't going to be enough. You're asking way too much out of this bullpen, which is still not fully rested, as we pointed out. They're going to find a way. They're going to get 12 outs. Did anybody think they were getting 12 outs? I didn't think they were getting 12 outs. Hawk didn't think they were getting 12 outs. So you have to treat every run like it's everything. Like you need it. As if it's water walking down the Sahara Desert. You need every run. First and second, nobody out. Advance the runners. Only 1 in his career. But it was an important one. He can do it. And in that moment, they needed Tyrone Taylor to lay down a bunt. He pops up on the first pitch. Alvarez taps out on the first pitch. Lindor got intentionally walked, the confusing intentional walk, and Jose Iglesias, who has been so good in those situations, strikes out on a 1-2 pitch that was off the plate, inside. Kind of waved at it. And that was another one. That was another monstrous missed opportunity by this Met team. And it felt inevitable. It just felt like it was a ticking time bomb that eventually the Milwaukee Brewers were going to break through against this bullpen. And that was their last great scoring opportunity, but they still put guys on base. They actually had a guy on base every inning but the ninth and the third. They would always put guys on base. Got the 2-out bloop by Pete Alonso. I'm sure caused a lot of mocking. Here comes Pete Alonso finally getting a hit. Yes, a broken bat bleeder with 2 outs and nobody on. But it could have been something if J.D. Martinez did anything, and he didn't. And I wondered aloud, not angry, just wondered, hey, where's Jesse Winker? Jesse Winker has clearly got a little magic, a little charm against this Brewer team. Why not? Why not? Let's not see him. Joe Ross just came into the game. They went to the righty for JD. Why not the response with Jesse Winker? I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. But I was wondering, where is he? Where's the Wink man? A guy who clearly has that, we know this well, has that ability to get the big hit and be that heel. Didn't happen. And, of course, it all sets up our doom. Oh, yeah, they got the leadoff walk with Marte in the 8th inning, and that went nowhere when Francisco Alvarez grounded into a double play. So I think we covered it all. I think we covered every single blown opportunity by this Met offense. 3 runs was never going to be enough. Reed Garrett, fine job. Ryan Stanek, fine job. Let's let Phil Maton die on the mound. That was the strategy by Carlos Mendoza, and we have ourselves a 5-3 loss. Here's the other thing Mendy did I did not like. And I've talked about this before on the Rico as something that concerns me, something that makes me uneasy, and that is the quick defensive replacement. You want to improve your defense? Of course you do. But with a 1-run lead or even a 2-run lead, maybe I'm just so negative. I look at the lineup and I say, well, what if I blow the lead? Now, what if the opponent, in this case the Brewers, what if they come back and tie the game? What do? Do I really want to take out one of my better hitters like Starling Marte, who's been on base 4 times? Not really. Do I really want to take Mark Vientos out, who's been one of the better hitters in this series? Not really. So going into that bottom of the 8th inning, Carlos Mendoza made the changes. One change I didn't mind. The other one drove me nuts. Taking Marte out of the game, considering he had made the 3rd to last out of the inning in the bottom of the or top of the 8th inning, not the end of the world. You want to take Marte out for defense, get Bader to center, move Taylor to right. You got the top of the order coming up. Marte's batting 7th. So potentially, if the Brewers tie the game, maybe you're talking about an at-bat in the 10th inning. I get the risk. I'm okay with that risk. That was the time to take Starling Marte out of the game. I got no problem with it, despite him getting on base 4 times. But he also took Vientos out of the game. You have a 1-run lead in the bottom of the 8th inning. There's going to be a top of the 9th inning, obviously. Either you're up by a run, it's tied, or you're losing. So no matter what, that 9th inning is going to be an inning where you really need to score a run, either to avoid losing or to give yourself insurance. Mark Vientos was due up 3rd in the 9th inning. So when Mendy decided in the bottom of the 8th, I'm going to take Vientos out, I'm going to go to the rookie, Luis Angel Acuna. I'm going to play him at 2nd. I'm going to move Iglesias to 3rd base. He made that decision knowing 1,000% I'm taking an at-bat away from Mark Vientos. That's his decision. 1,000%. In a perfect world, you're up by a run. It turns out to not be a big deal. Well, my friends, we don't live in a perfect world. We live in a world in which we suffer horrible playoff losses. And so when Phil Maton threw his 3rd pitch to Jackson Chourio and hit it over the fence for a home run, my first reaction is, we don't have Vientos. And I'm telling you, maybe this is why we should do like a live watch party on the Rico. But then again, these live watch parties aren't very fun. In fact, if you're watching the Rico live, not if you're on the podcast, you'll already know the result. The start time of the Met game, game 3, is dependent on the Brave-Padre game. If the Padres win, the Mets play in prime time, 7:08 first pitch. 7:08, 7:38, one of the two. If the Braves come back and win, the Mets play at 3 o'clock, which means Watch party. We got no other choice. And I hate them. So I am a little distracted by the Brave Padre game, not only because I hate the Atlanta Braves, but because I hate having a Met playoff elimination game on while we're on the air the entire time. But if you were sitting next to me, and that's the one positive of the party we did on Monday, we gave instant reactions and instant first guesses. So, for example, if you listen to that, it's still on YouTube. When Lindor hit the home run, I wanted to keep Diaz in. We went around the room, said, what would you do? And I admitted I would have kept Edwin Diaz in. As soon as Shambi and Glanville plopped over and showed us Luis Angel Acuna at second, I had a sick feeling in my stomach. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? He's due up third the next inning, and you're making a defensive change with a 1-run lead in the 8th inning and a burnt-out Phil Maton on the mound? I hated that. I don't hate it as much as letting the burnt-out Phil Maton die on the mound in the middle of a playoff game. That's my least favorite move that Mendy made. But it's not way too early because it's the bottom of the 8th inning, so I don't want to phrase it as way too early. It's not the right part of the game and the right part of the lineup to take Vientos out. You leave him in. If you still have a lead after the 8th inning, fine, go make your defensive move. But you cannot make that defensive move when he's going to bat in the 9th inning no matter what. Can't do it. Freaking brutal. Now, the season isn't over. All right. Let me give you that. Let me give you the official. The season is not over. But what you have now allowed by not stepping on the Milwaukee Brewers and finishing them off is you've given them hope. And now, Jose Quintana, the most unreliable starting pitcher of the core 4 guys, takes them out. Jose's been great lately. No question about it. They need him to be great again. David Peterson should be one of the big arms coming out of this bullpen, raring and ready to go. I would assume everybody's available out of the bullpen. I mean, why not? Ryan Stanek pitching a 3rd straight day. Who cares? As burnt out as Phil Maton is, I guess you could go to him. Not that you'd really want to. But Edwin Diaz would certainly be fresh with 2 off days. I think you're asking for the world from Edwin Diaz in a winner-take-all Game 3. And here we are, exactly where we were 2 years ago, in a Game 3 win-or-go-home scenario. It's a lot of fun when your team's not involved. When your team's involved, it gives me a sickening feeling. How are you, Hart? You see any asses tonight?
No, thank God you didn't tweet out the freaking Zoom link or whatever we use. Listen, first of all, DeComo, put out a nice tweet earlier on saying this is only the second time a wild card round has gone to Game 3. The other time for San Diego. So we like being part of this history. Can we go back to killing Phil Maton for a second? So I am so on everything you said. I mean, it's 6 batters. He gave 4 hits. I mean, he got that double play. Thank God. Otherwise, who knows how bad that inning could have gone. But you made a point that they couldn't go to Phil Maton. Who were they going to go to? Was it an Edwin Diaz situation, 6 out save?
I don't know if you could have realistically gotten 6 outs from Edwin Diaz. So I think the only option would have been to go to Diaz in the 8th and kind of play it batter by batter, inning by inning. See if he could get the top of the order out. See if he could protect that 1-run lead. And, kind of after that, play it by year. You may have to go to somebody else. I'm not sure if Edwin Diaz was going to be capable of having another 30-pitch outing. But if it wasn't Phil Maton, I mean, there aren't great options. It was Huascar Brazoban. It was Adam Ottavino. It was Danny Young. And that's why I don't have an issue with going to Phil Maton. My issue was sticking with Phil Maton. Giving up the game-tying home run, nothing you could do, man. I mean, Jackson Chourio with 2 home runs in this game. It is what it is. It was more after the fact, the hard contact that was taking place. He needed to come out of the game. He couldn't have stayed in the game. It was obvious that Phil Maton wasn't executing.
No, and it's frustrating. I understand the three batter minimum, but in the playoffs, that should come off the table.
Well, it should, but it doesn't. And you know what? They had an opportunity anyway. because after he gives up the base hit to Perkins, he got the double play. He faced the 3 batters. The real moment he needed to come out of the game was after Adames got the hit. And I'll be honest on who I was going to go to. Garrett Mitchell was at the plate. I think I would have gone to Danny Young. And I know that doesn't feel like the best option, but at this point, we went through what the bullpen options were. It was Danny Young. It was Brazoban, Diaz, Ottavino. Kranick's not an option. I don't think Budo was available, and I don't think David Peterson was necessarily available. So those are the options. So I would have kind of gone in with Garrett Mitchell coming up and said, screw it. I'm going to go to Danny Young to try to get the out and then just see what happens. Going to Ottavino, I don't think that would have been a good matchup. But staying with Maton to me was not an option. I'd rather go to a fresher, crappy reliever than a guy who, yes, has overall pitched well, but clearly looks cooked. That was my biggest issue from this.
No, I agree. How are you feeling about tomorrow?
I don't feel great right now. I mean, maybe tomorrow I'll feel a lot better. But as of right now, in the aftermath of this game, I feel like I feel bad. I feel good. I can't imagine many Met fans do. In fact,
you should go to you should go to some emails. Maybe get some positive emails.
Yeah, you think we're going to get some positive emails?
Oh,
the only positive email we're going to get is what has now become a tradition, and that's Positive Tommy emailing us his shtick. That's it. That's the only thing we're going to get. Let's go to Michael Showman. He blames Pete and JD, not Mendy and the pen. Okay. Fellas, this game is exclusively on the offense, specifically Pete and JD Martinez. They've become unplayable. If Pete doesn't trip on this effing bat, they're up 2, and it's a totally different game. Neither Pete or JD produce power anymore. Tacoma had a stat that's in September 19th. Pete's 4 for 36 with 4 singles. It's unrealistic to bench Pete, but he needs to be dropped further in the lineup, and JD should not start another game. Winker needs to DH and bat 5th, with Marte and Wright batting 6th in front of Pete. Mendy should have pushed Garrett another inning or even Stanek, but we all agree that Maton is in the circle of trust. My bigger issue is that Edwin or Peterson were not there for Garrett Mitchell. This is for another day, but they may never have been a bigger loss of money in a single season than Pete Alonso. He's much more likely to get his Rhys Hoskins 2 for 34 than anything even approaching 80 or 100. Yes, I don't care about Pete Alonso's contract, so thank you for pointing it out. Don't care. Peterson's interesting. David Peterson, I guess, could have been available. It's only 2 days rest for him. He made the start on Sunday. So 2 days rest. It's your bullpen day. You're asking him to get a batter. Wouldn't have been opposed to it. I mentioned Danny Young only because I'm confident he'd be available. As far as Pete and JD are concerned and what to do, at least for tomorrow or today, depending on when you're listening, against the righty Tobias Myers, you want to drop Pete from 5 to 6, fine. You want to pull a Joe Torre and bat him 8th, whatever. Okay, I'm not going to fight it. I'm not against it. We've already seen Mendy has shown us he does not mind moving guys around in this batting order, including dropping guys. JD Martinez or Jesse Winker, I think I agree with you. JD took an 0 for 3 today. Winker's got that drama in him. So I'm with you in orchestrating the lineup for the winner-take-all game 3. I would probably keep the same pieces that Mendy used in this game. I would just go back to Winker over JD. And if you want to drop Pete Alonso to 6, that's fine. Pete's got a hit. I mean, we could say the same thing over and over again. Everybody's going to say the same thing over and over again. It's just the reality. He's got a hit. Pete's not hitting. He's not impacting. He'll get a couple of singles here and there. He is not impacting him. And they need him to make that big impact. The New York Mets have played 2 games in this series. They have hit 0 home runs. They have had 1 extra base hit. In fact, let me count up the hits they've had. They had 8 hits in this game. They had 7 hits in game 1. 15 hits, 14 singles. It's not going to cut it. It's just not. It was able to cut it in game 1, but most of the time in this day and age, getting every hit as a single is not going to cut it. So somebody, and hopefully it's Pete Alonso, but somebody is going to have to step up and hit the freaking ball over the fence. I'm watching the Atlanta Braves hit the ball over the fence right now. I have so much interest in this game because of what it does to all of us. If the Braves win, it's an afternoon Met game, winner take all game 3. If the Braves lose, the Mets at least play a primetime game. So that makes me sick. I apologize. For those listening on a podcast Thursday morning, you already know the result. This is me having to live the result. But the Mets have to hit the ball over the fence. Sorry, that's what they got to do. All right, Will Rifkin, irrelevant, but I need to ask. Let's say we tied it in the 9th. Who's playing in the infield after Jesse Winker hit for Luis Angel Acuna? Thought the same thing. I thought the same thing. I thought for a second when Winker hit for Acuna that maybe he double switched the batting spots since both guys came out at the same time, that maybe Bader was hitting 3rd and Acuna was batting 7th. And so if that was the case and Winker was just pinch hitting for Bader, no harm, no foul. I rechecked the box score. There was no movement. It was literally pinch hitting for Acuna. So my assumption would be that Luis Torrens would have come in to play 3rd base and Iglesias would have played 2nd. I think that's what they would have done. What was it, like 2 weeks ago? Kind of the same thing happened. Peter writes, Evan, I loved Mendy's moves most of the year, not tonight. Minaya should have been pushed one more, and you did not pitch Phil Maton against their big guns. Diaz should have been in there for the 8th inning. The Diaz 8th inning thing, which I'm always a big fan of, would have made sense in this spot. And then you worry about the 9th inning when you get to the 9th inning. If you get to the 9th inning, if you have a lead, if Diaz only throws 7 pitches, you have no idea. Dan writes, it was only a matter of time before the missed opportunities came back to bite them in the ass. 2 for 11, 9 left on base, runners in scoring position. The offense coming to an absolute halt after scoring in the first 2 innings. It was everything we screamed about down the stretch. When they don't have those electric innings like yesterday and tack on runs, you leave the pitching 0 room for error. I understand people are going to be furious with Mendoza's 8th inning, which definitely wasn't his best, but I think Pete has to be the one who wears this. That guy is lucky he saved 700 errors over the first of this year, because with him failing over his face and then taking a horrible strikeout in 2 big spots, you could put a lot of the game on his shoulders. There was blood in the water tonight. That Brewers team from the manager on down were absolutely cooked. Now you have PTSD to all the times throughout the year where they couldn't close teams out. Yesterday's vibe almost felt like a continuation of the regular season with the early start time and the stress-free nature of the game. Well, that's thrown out the window now because this team just got a harsh introduction to playoff baseball. And now your only option is to do what everyone has been screaming this team has done all year. Fight back when they're on the mat and show that one swing isn't going to be the thing that stops this adrenaline train they've been riding dead in its tracks. Yeah, this is the ultimate response. Bryce Terang, Mets killer. Yeah. I think that qualifies. Bryce Terang is 5 for 8, I think, in this series. Something like that. Jack Oler writes, Garrett Gillespie. I wonder if he means Connor Gillespie. If you see the subject, you'll see what the dagger of a home run reminded me of. I don't think it's worth wasting your time getting on Mendy for any decision he made today. Phil Maton laid an egg and gave us all false hope of salvageability with a Contreras double play ball. But we all knew a 1-run lead through full bullpen innings wasn't going to lead to it was going to lead to heartbreak. Too many left men on base, the black holes of Pete and JD in the heart of the lineup becoming too much, and now insult to injury that Pete could have gotten us an insurance run if he wasn't a real-life Looney Tune. I truly didn't want to see a Game 3 in this series, but we will. I'm still not fully convinced that if Pete doesn't fall on his ass, he beats that out. I think it's a double play anyway. Joshua writes, the series is over and Mendy effed us. Well put. Can we all really be surprised? As much as I would like to pat us on the back for making the wild card, I'm disappointed about this one. Maton needs to come out of the game after giving up 4 hard contacts with Diaz likely available. Worry about tomorrow in the 10th inning if and when they happen. As good as he's been, Mendoza effed us here. Seems like 2 Stearns teams have collapsed the last 2 years. Here's your positive Tommy message. No team in baseball has had more gut-punching losses this year than the Mets. They have been here before. They know how to handle it. I believe in the power of positivity. Okay. Okay, be right. Be right. You pulled up some Mendy audio?
Yeah, what do you want to hear? Because we got a ton here. So you want to hear, he talks about Diaz only being available for few hitters. He talks about Pete Alonso at some point in time. Which one do you want to, or Phil Maton? Who do you want to hear from?
I guess Diaz. What he said about Edwin Diaz.
All right, hold on. Let me get it right here.
Carlos Mendoza on Edwin Diaz.
Carlos, was Diaz available tonight?
Yeah, he was available. But we knew we had him for, few hitters, So yeah, we just didn't get to him.
When you go through that decision-making process, what is the process of deciding, okay, we want him for these 3 hitters versus saving him for the next?
Yeah, they got good hitters, 1 through 9, and it's either 1, 2, 3 or 4, 5, 6. We were just gonna keep it at 1 inning today because of the way we use them. So I like the matchup there, Maton Churio. He just left that cutter all over the plate. Wanted to make him chase, and we didn't do that. So yeah.
Yeah, so keep this in mind. And this is very dangerous because there may not be a tomorrow, or there may not be an opportunity to use Edwin Diaz with a lead. That's the risk you have. If he goes to Diaz, whether it's in the 8th inning like I suggested or any other time, it also impacts how much he could pitch tomorrow as well in game 3. So if you use him for the 3 batters that he mentioned, then the follow-up tomorrow, if things don't work out and the Mets don't win this game, is, okay, well, how available is he for game 3? So I know it may not matter because the Mets could very easily lose 8-0 in game 3. They could easily be in a spot where Edwin Diaz doesn't have an impact on this game. But you probably, by not pitching him in this game, will get to use him at full strength in game 3. That's not a reason not to use him, but it's the reason why after Churio ties the game, you're not going to use him. I would not have used him in a tie game. That's why I never brought him up as an option after Churio hit the home run and there was a runner on first and 2 outs and Maton was clearly cooked. I think the only time you could have used Diaz is the 9th inning. If they had a lead, he would have tried to get the last 3 outs, or use the 3 outs against the top of the order in the 8th inning and say, hey, you know what? These are going to be the most difficult outs. Let me go to him right here. And obviously he decided not to do it. He went to Maton because he liked the matchup. That turned out to not be good or well because Churio hit the ball a ton the opposite way. And obviously Maton got his ass beat.
You would like to hear more. You want to hear about his thoughts on Alonso or about heading into game 3?
Yeah, let's hear about game 3. I know what he's going to say about Alonso. Yeah, I didn't hear that. Yeah, let me hear your thoughts on game 3, Mendy.
This team's ability to, you've mentioned the team's ability to counterpunch, as you guys have in the past weeks. So that gives you pretty good, and not confidence, but good feeling going into the last game.
Yeah. I think we've shown in the whole year, we've been knocked down and we have the ability to get back up. And here we are, got punched today. We'll get right back. They're a good ball club, man. They're a good team. We'll be ready to go.
They have responded every time.
This team's ability.
They have responded every time. Now they got to go do it. They got to go do it. Eventually, they're not going to respond. I hope it's not game 3 against the Brewers, because then we're going to do tons of Rico Brognas debating, was this a good season or not? That'll take us through the month of November. But yes, this team has always shown an ability to bounce back. We saw it a couple of days ago with the victory against Atlanta in game 161, the wildness of that game. But this is going to be a big test for them. I think they've got the starting pitching edge, as well as Tobias Myers has thrown the ball. Jose Quintana is a veteran. He's been around. He's seen this before. So I think they do have a slight starting pitching edge going into this game. They are going to have David Peterson ready to go out of the bullpen. And like I mentioned, a fresher Edwin Diaz. I assume also the availability of Jose Budo. And now the key is, can they perform? Is that Jose Quintana?
Yeah, let's hear from Jose Quintana.
Let's hear from our hope of winning game 3, Jose Quintana.
What are the general thoughts knowing you're pitching a do-or-die game tomorrow?
Well, really excited. I think it's a privilege to get this opportunity, pitching all season one more time. And after this loss, it's really tough for us. But we keep our heads up, and tomorrow we're back strong.
Look, credit to Jose Quintana. The guy has thrown pretty well recently. He didn't pitch that well in the last start against the Brewers, but before that, he had the very long scoreless streak going on, and he's been there before. Let me see how many postseason starts he's made. He's made 4 postseason starts. The last one he made, it was a good one. I actually remember that one against the Phillies in the wild card series a couple of years ago. 5 1/3 scoreless innings. His team went on to lose. And then before that was actually 5 years earlier. Wow. So he started in the wild card game in 2022, a game I remember. But before that, you got to go back to 2017, the National League Championship Series, when he was on the Chicago Cubs against the LA Dodgers. And then he also pitched in the earlier round, the DS against the Washington Nationals. So 4 career postseason starts for Quintana, 18 2/3 innings, 8 runs. That's a postseason ERA of 3.86. Certainly a lot better than Sean Manaea. Sean Manaea's postseason numbers coming in were pretty abysmal. And to his credit, he went out and threw a good game. So, yes, our hope now is relied on Jose Quintana. Let me read a couple of emails, just a few more, and then I got to go to sleep and, just cry myself to bed.
You don't want to hear from Pete Alonso at all? He's so happy.
Really? You want to hear from Pete Alonso? Oh, okay. Michael M. says, I'm back to hating the Mets. Yeah. Joe writes, Phil Maton, the moment was too big for him. Tom is blaming Sean Morash. Sean Morash is an absolute stiff. I'll never forgive him. What the hell did he do? I think he predicted that Edwin Diaz was going to blow this game. I don't think he actually predicted anybody else. ESPN announcers versus Evan and Pete. Wow, okay. I guess we have a rivalry. ESPN personalities, if you want to call what they have a personality, are making these games hard to enjoy. I know I speak for true Met fans. I'd much rather mute the TV and listen to Pete Hall of Famer Hoffman and Evan Redbeard Churio. You guys bring me joy and excitement. I want my Mets people. I need my Mets people. And on a side note, Steve Martin, I really don't care about the parasitic relationship between whales and barnacles. What the hell? Was that a commercial or something?
I have no idea. But I appreciate, you know what, not for nothing, I do appreciate the Churio joke.
Yes. Okay, so here's the deal I'll make, assuming the Mets are playing a night game. And again, the way this works is if San Diego wins, that game is very late in the game. If you're watching us live on YouTube, if you're on the podcast, you already know the result. If the Padres win, the Mets are playing a primetime game. If the Padres lose, the Mets are on at 3:00. So if the Mets lose, you're going to get a companion broadcast because the Evan and Tiki show will do a lot of watching of a Mets winner-take-all game 3. The problem I have, Pete, on doing a watch-along with you on the Rico is that I get home late and have to start the game late on DVR. I had to do that in this game. Now, eventually I caught up and I was able to watch it. So that would be the only thing if we did a watch-along. You guys have to, I could join you in the 6th inning once I catch up, but it does take me some time to catch up, especially with the horrible traffic I hit leaving New York City.
Well, a couple different things. All right. Well, you could just watch the game in your car on DVR as you're driving in traffic and the other day and text yourself. Yeah. Well, but here's the thing is you could either just say, because again, we've done this before. I've watched Joe Rogan do it a bunch of times. He will tell you, okay, we're going to start from right here. And you just tell people where you are so that they can pause their game and wait for you.
First of all, Pete, for the regular season, that's a great idea. I cannot make any human being pause a playoff game to wait for me. That no shot, no way, no how.
Well, do it. But you could do it during once you catch up. You could say, okay, we caught up, and now it's the 6th inning or 7th inning.
No, and that I'll agree to. I will agree to. And it really depends on the traffic I hit going home, but I should catch up by the 6th to 7th inning. We could spend the last few innings together. We could do a companion Rico for the last few innings of either the Mets season or a wonderful Game 3 victory. I am thinking about – go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and I promise you, if that is the case, if we are going to do that, I will make sure that we have a special guest or two to join us so it doesn't – so gives you less screen time and more like reaction time.
Oh, I like that. I mean? I do like that. I am starting to think about the winner-take-all games in the history of the New York Mets. So off the top of my head, if I think about winner-take-all games in the history of the New York Mets, we have 2 years ago, Game 3, wild card series against San Diego, a loss at Citi Field. I think back to the wild card game of 2016, again at Citi Field, the Connor Gillespie, Madison Bumgarner game. I think of that. So those are 2 losses in a row. I think of arguably the greatest game I ever witnessed as a Met fan. Like, I put this game up with any other game, and that is Game 5 of the 2015 NLDS, the Jacob deGrom game, essentially, the Terry Collins game, the Jairus Familia 6-out save game of 2015. Then we've got Game 7, 2006 NLCS, which didn't we during the offseason? That was our watch along game. Ugh.
Yeah, then you talk to Adam Wainwright right after.
Then I told Adam Wainwright to go F himself. Yeah, much simpler times, the offseason. So we got that one. So I have our record now at 1-3. And that's it for my lifetime. That's it for my lifetime. Then you got to go back to 1988 when they played Game 7 of the National League Championship Series at Dodger Stadium. They got blown out that day. So now I have us at 1-4. We have Game 7 of the 86 World Series, of course. That was our watch along from 2 years ago, that winner take all game. So now I've got us at 1-3, 1-4, 2-4. Then we've got Game 7 of the 1973 World Series. That's a game I watched during the pandemic. I can't get over the fact they didn't send Willie Mays up as a pinch hitter for Wayne Garrett. I'm sorry. I can't get over that. I wasn't even alive. I was -10 and this thing still pisses me off.
That's where we are today, Ev. That's where we are right now in this
I'm just trying to go through all the winner-take-all games in Met history. I'm almost done, I promise. And then you've got Game 5 of the NLCS. That was back when it was best of 5 when they played the Cincinnati Reds. So I've got the Mets all-time record at 3-5 in winner-take-all games. 3-5. Will it be 4-5? Will it be 3-6? What's your gut feeling right now, Positive Pete?
Dude, I got to be honest with you. I watched this game. It was terrible, but I'm not nervous at all. Like,
You're not nervous at all?
No, I'm too confident. I think this team is too. Maybe I'm the idiot. Maybe I'm the one. But I just feel like this team has something going on. It's too special. The story is not going to be done after tomorrow. I just don't.
Yeah, I've had this thought, not necessarily with this team, but I should have this thought with this team, where you experience a season. You experience a long season, a good season, however you want to define it. And then you get to a moment where it's just about to end, or at least it could end, right? It's possible the season's going to end on this day. And you say to yourself, it's not ending this way. And the last time I had that feeling, and it turned out to be right, was Game 5 against the Dodgers in 2015, where I remember being nervous all day long for that game. I was doing middays at the time. I would bike to work. I would bike home, and I'm biking back there, man. I'm exercising back to my home, knowing I got a few hours before Game 5. And I remember even getting home and saying to my wife, I just don't think this is the way it's going to end. Like, this is not the way it's going to end. Like this? No, not that there's anything embarrassing about losing a Game 5 against the LA Dodgers. Zach Greinke on the mound, I think. Like, it wasn't even that. It was just my brain told me this isn't how it ends. Now, I didn't know how it was going to end. Apparently, it was going to end with horrible losses in the World Series to the Kansas City Royals. So I think as I go to bed tonight and I wake up and do a radio show, I think I'm going to come to that conclusion as well, which is this is how it's going to end. Like, this season, which has been so magical at times, has had all the gimmicks, all the moments, the greatest regular season win in the history of the franchise. Like, is it really going to end in a Game 3 loss to the Milwaukee Brewers and Tobias Myers? So maybe thinking like that, Pete, is going to bring me to some confidence going into Game 3. But it's so soon after the loss, I'm still pretty bitter.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing is I don't have to play, so I can think whatever the hell I want.
Oh, there is one other negative from this horrible game that I do want to point out. A little thing that I want to point out that could become big. So Devin Williams, the Milwaukee Brewers' best reliever, who missed a big part of the season with the back issue, comes back, lockdown awesome. One of the better closers in baseball. If you're ranking the best closers in baseball, it's a short list. Emmanuel Clase, Devin Williams, at times Edwin Diaz. Devin Williams comes into this game with a 2-run lead in the 9th inning. Can you make him work? Can you make Devin Williams have a 25-pitch save? Like, if you're not going to come back against Devin Williams, which is tough. I mean, it's not easy coming back on him. Can you not have the meekest inning in the history of baseball? The inning was so meek, and this is also ESPN's fault, that after Lindor hit that foul pop-up, they showed us something else while Iglesias was flying out to right field. Like, I don't think people even saw Jose Iglesias fly out to right field because ESPN was showing us God knows what. I don't even remember what they were showing.
Can I tell you something? And I've had a gripe about ESPN. They love to do these freaking in-the-moment interviews.
That was it. They were interviewing Garrett Mitchell.
Yeah, dude, let me tell you something, okay? I'm an MMA guy. Everyone knows this. I love the UFC. During the pandemic, they had Megan O'Leary, who I love Megan O'Leary. She does a great job. But they had her mid-fight talk to the coaches while their fighters were in the cage, getting punched in the face. Not the time for it, guys.
Not the time.
And stop with the in-game interviews. Stop it.
Like Garrett Mitchell, who this is the first time we're even mentioning his name. Obviously, he hit the 2-run home run. He pinch ran for Gary Sanchez. He hit the bomb off of Phil Maton. We don't need to hear from Garrett Mitchell. Even if I'm a Brewer fan, I wouldn't want to. You want to know why? Because if I'm a Brewer fan, I'm like, can we get the last 2 freaking outs? That's what I'd be saying. It's not even like an anti-Brewer thing. It's we didn't win the game yet if I'm a Brewer fan. And as a Met fan, just show me the game. Just show me the game. And here's another thing. This is very irrational that I want to bitch about. We had a caller say this on the air today, too, and I actually said, it's not that bad. A caller was bitching about the win percentage, the probability percentage. I don't usually hate the probability percentage because it's just interesting. It's just telling you the win probability. Like, who cares? Doesn't mean a team's definitely going to win. They do that on Yahoo Fantasy. Like, when your Yahoo Fantasy Football Week is going on, they'll say you have a 75% chance of winning. Trust me, it doesn't mean anything. We all know that. I don't know why, but tonight, maybe it's because we're trying to clinch another round. And so this win is the sweet nectar of getting to a series against the Phillies. But every time they showed me that percentage above the score bug, I got pissed off. I don't know why. It kind of annoyed me. But ladies and gentlemen, I get to say this live, and I'm very excited. The Atlanta Braves have been eliminated. Woo! Yeah! Yes! What does Sal do where he mocks the tomahawk chop? I forget. He does something funny, like, you suck. Over. Oh, that was it. All right, this is for you, Sal. And Sal, you do it much better than me, I admit it. It's over. Over. Now, there's reasons why I'm very happy about this. Reason number one, I hate the Atlanta Braves. Don't we all? Like, what human being that likes the New York Mets would ever not despise the Atlanta Braves? But the other reason I'm pumped up is it means the Mets are going to be in prime time. So now the first pitch for the winner-take-all Game 3 will be 7:06. That's the official start time, 7:06. I know the Mets are having a big watch party out at Citi Field, which now I'm starting to think, should I go to the watch party, Pete? And then we could do a drive home, Rico, after it's over.
I mean, no doubt. You should definitely be there. You should definitely be there.
I'm going to give that some thought. I got to talk to my wife about that and kids because they're all from school. It's a holiday. It's Rosh Hashanah. Happy New Year to anyone who celebrates. I got to consider that. But either way, the New York Mets and the Milwaukee Brewers are the only series playing a Game 3, which is the same trend as 2022, as Pete Hoffman pointed out. Let's all say a prayer to the baseball gods, and let us all hope that we are not going to have to live with this horrible loss we just experienced and something maybe even more brutal on Thursday that we're going to have to live with throughout the baseball season. Our baseball season comes down to one game, and as the great Boomer Esiason would say, one pitch, one batter, one inning, 2 innings, 5 innings, and something like that. Yeah, whatever. Just we got to take it one at a time. Either way, we will have a Rico Brogna right after the game is over. if we do something live during the game, just pay attention to YouTube. I guess you should subscribe to the WFAN YouTube account, and then you can get a live update that we're going live. For those that download our podcast and you don't watch us on YouTube, you'll wait for it the next day or that night. You won't have to worry. Thank you very much for listening, downloading, and subscribing to another edition, a pissed off edition of Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.